in the same alignment about difficult conversations, so often I think we get stuck with trying to prove either something wrong or myself right. I've gone in a lot of businesses where, again, they've got some operational excellence but they're blaming their staff. And if those are out, like if our results and the staff that we've got aren't in alignment, the question's not about what did everything go wrong before, but what do we need to change to get where we're going? And so I always try to frame even the tough talks with this idea of what does a successful outcome look like, or what's the result that we're going for? I don't care what happened yesterday, but if we agree that something's got to change to move forward, then let's test our assumptions. If it's bad people, well, what's telling us it's bad people? What characteristics can we qualify and quantify? And then if that's not true, if it's just I think and I feel, then let's take what we know and start to work through and develop the people in that organization.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm Pedro, and today's guest is Dana DeVito, a seasoned coach and consultant who helps executives and business owners across several industries gain clarity, define strategy, and unlock growth and profits. With 15 years plus of leadership and business ownership experience, they specialize in helping leaders break through self-imposed constraints to achieve their full potential. Through their firm, EPA Coaching, they guide top performers and leaders to make transformative changes, combining the intensity and focus of a professional athlete with proven business strategies. Their work is about developing leaders, not just managing people, so clients can level up, achieve elite results, and live the life they were created to lead. Welcome to the show, Dana.
Thanks, Pedro. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I am a dad, but I'm going to avoid the obvious joke about the Danny DeVito, stuff. I'm going to, hold myself back a little, okay? And
you're the first then, because everybody says it. And I just wish I were related. That's it.
My God, I can relate with that. Last time someone asked me, "Hey, are you by any chance related to a famous guy?" I'm gonna say it. I'm like, I wish I was, because I would have had some money. Now, I want to backtrack a little, Dana, and talk about the origin story. Because you could be a plumber, you could be, I don't know, a sushi master, anything. But you decided to be a coach. And every coach has that moment where they look at their life and say, yeah, I guess this is what I'm doing now, right? So when was that for you?
Yeah, that is a great question and a little convoluted, but the front end, I'm going to start with the front and then kind of work back. 15 years ago, I was running my own businesses. I had restaurants at the time and was doing that, realizing that I wasn't happy with just making food and serving customers. I really found that my enjoyment came from developing my staff. And so as I was developing friendships and relationships around my community, I started sharing that kind of presentation. And a close friend of mine happened to be in the process of developing and growing his organization and preparing it for sale. And he asked if I would help him through that process. And my first response was, nope, not a chance. I'm doing my own thing. But then I started thinking about it, that if someone can take benefit of the innumerable amount of awful mistakes I've made over my career and just the wrecks that I've done to my own business, then why not? And so he was kind enough to ask for my help. And in humility, I stepped in and walked alongside him. And we were able to, after a couple of years, get his company up and running and to a point where we ended up selling it and getting him retired. And that was great. So that's the front end of it. Prior to that, when I was in first year of university, I shifted over from being really motivated to become a physical therapist, and I wanted to get into education. So I started the education degree, and that's my first. My bachelor's degree is in education. Although I never went into teaching, I got pulled out of right after graduation into some startups. And I started working up with some founders. And as I started working with founders in their organizations, it really motivated me to get into my own business. And then, like I said, transitioning from my own business into helping each other. I've just found once again my heart for what drove me to want to become a teacher. I really enjoy helping others find their success. It makes me, it is probably one of the most enjoyable things I do is seeing somebody find either accomplishment of their vision or maybe even getting through their hurdles that they didn't think they were able to get to. I just love helping people find joy in achievement.
I think that's so unique. That story is so unique. And I'm going to tell you why. Usually when I talk with business owners, they're like, and I worked with a landscape business coach, right? We talked about that in the pre-interview process. And that what always brings me, and I think this is so unique, is because we see a lot of business owners that are passionate about the operations, right? They're like, oh, I want to do X, Y, and Z because I love cooking. I love, do this stuff. And eventually they find the obstacle, which is people. You're the opposite, right? You love working with people, not necessarily cooking. Do you see like your own clients going through that type of mentality, or is it something that I'm just tripping out here?
No, what a great question. I find that the majority of my coaching and my conversations really are about how to engage with and develop personnel and people, because it's not things that we're really taught through school. We're kind of left to our own devices and trying to figure it out. And that's what, man, I've made so many mistakes I've employed personally close to 6,000 people. And I've made a lot of mistakes over the years. And so to your point, what I'm finding with when I step into organizations, we start like a lot of the doors open because we want to get better financial results through again, operational excellence or, setting up. I'm an operations guy, so setting up SOPs and scaling that way and helping them build the structure of it. But inevitably it boils down to people and who are in the right spot, doing the right things. And if I could ask a question of you in return, working with a landscaping company, how did that go and what did you find in regards to, because it is a technical skill, but really dependent upon the people that are doing it. Did you find that same kind of hurdle?
Definitely. It sounded like they always hit a ceiling when they're like working 60 to 70 hours per week. And they're like trying to manage everything, especially they're perfectionists, right? And they're trying to have the best of the best because nobody gets to their level. The employees, they don't care, they don't love. And eventually it was like future telling. You could see a guy that's going to get divorced, is going to burn out himself, and because he doesn't trust the people around him or he's not willing to trust. So that was pretty clear. It's what's going inside here, the mindset. Now, I'm very curious about the shift, and I'm going to call it a shift because you're coming from a hybrid type of experience and background, right? Business owner, the health part and all of that, the physical part, and you studied that. Now, I wonder, when did it shift? It happened to I'm helping people in the coaching space to, you know what? I think this is a real business now.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly when it happened. And I'm sure this is not unusual, but it was a really tumultuous time of my life, and it would happen to be through COVID. So my personal businesses were booming. We had record years throughout COVID. Being in food service and especially with drive-through business, our sales were just crushing it. But our staff, there was one of my restaurants, I needed a base number of staff to be about 22 to 25 people on staff. And that was the bare minimum number. And I would do better around that 35 to 40 people. I woke up one Monday morning with 7 people. And that was just, I had 5 facilities open, 5 units open. And so to have, my stomach just sunk. And I didn't know how to survive it. And in that same span of time, between my wife and I, we lost both her parents and my dad. So we had 3 significant family deaths, just this overwhelm from the practice of business. And I still had clients that I was working with on top of it. I was getting up at 3:00 in the morning and getting to bed midnight to do it all over again. And it was just juggling between my own businesses, being behind the counter, working with a team, trying to recruit people. I ended up opening 2 coffee shops during COVID and trying to serve my clients who I had one client in oil and gas. When the cost of a barrel of oil went upside down and it was minus 25, they had to lay off 90% of their staff. The CEO went to work with another company so that he could sustain and maintain a skeleton crew. So through there, I stuck with them just on pro bono because they're going through the worst of times. How can I walk away from them? So I helped their senior leadership team hold things together. They did all the hard work. I was just a shoulder to lean on, and then doing that with my own business. And so as we started coming out of that mess, I have to say there was a part of me that was just a little broken and a little tired of seeing my future exclusively in brick and mortar. But then realizing the tremendous value I had, especially with that client where they were upside down. It was boom years prior, and then just a cratering that was devastating. And so my wife and I spent a lot of time talking about it, praying about it, and deciding that this was the direction that my career needed to go. And so I started divesting myself of most of my brick and mortar businesses, partnering up with my now business partner, Dave Richards, and really driving into Elite Performance Associates and growing that as my primary form of business.
Interesting pivot. Okay. Now, since we're talking about Elite, your business with David, right, is EPA.
Yep.
Since we're talking about that, let me understand one thing, because you joined that, and after you got rolling, I want to understand who are the people that kept showing up, because as it sounds like you help a lot of different industries, right? But I want to understand the commonality there, even if you got to that point, the ones you realize, okay, these are the people I can help the most,
Yeah. Great question. I find, and Dave, I think would say the same. We tend to, well, I will say this, my primary groups, I either deal with business owners or mid-level managers. And I know that's a big swing. With business owners, it's really walking them through, again, kind of segueing out of just the operational excellence and moving into how do I grow my people? Some of it's succession planning, some of it's identifying, how do we start to delegate and hold accountable well. And then on the flip side, when I get into organizations, as ownership is looking to grow and scale or even exit, it's that next generation. And so I really enjoy this, is working with mid-level managers, and especially in group settings, and walking them through the process, just like I was talking about before, where, man, I made a lot of screwed up engagements with relationships with my team members and with my staff. And so helping them better understand it as they're growing in their careers, like how do we do this well? Caring for the people around us, growing them in accordance, and just to get this cycle of development from boots on the ground through mid-level management to even senior leadership and then ultimately ownership. I mean, people are everything. I don't care what widget we make, what thing we sell.
Basically, the business owners, right, and the mid-level managers, those are the people you can help the most with EPA. Okay. Now, I want to understand one thing, the marketing aspect, right? So how do those people actually find you,
Yeah. So we have been exclusively referral based. And some of the pre-questions that you sent over to me are what are some of the growth opportunities moving forward? This year in particular, we are for the very first time going out and starting to market to industries. But what primarily we have done is find success in either a community or a group of clients, and they'll refer us to others. And it has been nonstop for the almost 15 years that I've been doing it, or the almost 14 years I've been doing it. And when I partnered up with my business partner, Dave, it's stayed the same. So that being said, I'll let you ask any questions, but I can go down any hole you want to.
Sure. No, yeah. What I actually want to know is like pretend Pedro, I'm a referral, you got from a different client, another client. And like, hey, Dana, I saw your website. I saw your stuff, really resonated with me. I really want to work with you guys. So what does that experience look like right now from my perspective? Like, let's say I'm an onboarded client.
Yep. It's really about asking great questions and figuring out where a potential client is where they're at today, where they want to go, and what's the disconnect. So if I can start to understand that, then and again, I really love using questions above anything else. And that's where I find that coaching is that oftentimes, Pedro, if you're coming to me, you already have a sense of the answer. And so if I can ask the right questions, and then you can feel like I'm shoulder to shoulder with you, and we're looking down the same road together, and that I'm going to be able to help you get to where you want to go. And so through just a good series of questions, really, I don't have fixed questions, but I have principles upon which I operate. And again, it's getting to know you, getting to know your goals, getting to know your priorities. And then if that's in alignment, then I'll offer my services at that point. But if I don't feel that there's an alignment, I really feel that it's an interview in both directions. I think that I work well with certain people and I don't work well with others. And I've got to be okay with that. To me, it is people that are humble, people that are driven, that are considerate of others or mindful, and that really have a heart for excellence and doing the best they can. Those are the people I want to work with. And I'm okay saying no to those that aren't. And so if I, through my questions, can figure out that that's a good alignment, then that's when I start offering up my services to walk alongside them.
Okay, I'm going to highlight two things. You mentioned being humble and driven, right? And you mentioned to an extent like alignment. That's a key aspect of it, of being able to be coachable, right? So my question to you is, we have a lot of coaches out there and they're like struggling, they're trying to pay their bills, right? And sometimes they hear this and like, okay, but I could, be being able to land a client. And especially in the early days, I guess most of coaches, they have this scarcity mindset. Like they want to impact people, but bills are knocking on the door, right? So how do you juggle that on the point that you're like, okay, I have ownership of this. I'm not going to close or I'm not going to serve this person because this is not aligned with me. Do you see like an internal struggle for that eagerness to land that client or not? How do you see that today?
Yeah, certainly. And I don't know if there's a great answer to that because bills add up. We've got to pay those bills. And so I completely understand it. In my own experience though, the frustration that stems from working with somebody that isn't in alignment with you. When I go into my clients, I think this is one of my selling points and why some of my clients I've had for almost 10 years, I get really sticky with them because I view it as if it's my own business. And I step in with a clarity and confidence in that same manner to where I'm going to go in and serve you as if this were mine. But that means sometimes it's late nights, sometimes it's uncomfortable conversations or difficult calls or doing what I need to do when I need to do it to help them achieve what they want to get to. There's a couple clients where I've had to walk away from where they weren't following through. They weren't accomplishing what we had both agreed that they would go out and accomplish and do. And at some point, if you're just blue in the face because you're repeating yourself, that's a great opportunity, a great window to go find another client. And so I know the bills add up and I know that's true. And we get that scarcity mindset where we're too worried about letting go. But man, I can't tell you, my wife has helped me process through this as I've been up at 2:00 in the morning thinking about how am I going to get this client to move forward. And she's like, Dana, you're killing yourself for them and they're not doing anything different. So for your own sake, you got to let go of it. And so bless her because she's my angel that holds my hand through these difficult choices. And really, I couldn't do it without her support in that. She really does give me the confidence to say no when I need to say no. Trust the information that I'm being told.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect. Like I had in the past people that I was like, there were clients and we were reaching out to them and it felt like code outreach sometimes. Like, hey, am I the only guy who's trying to actually help you? And I feel like that is a powerful reminder for coaches out there because at the end of the day, it's like we had a lot of people. I'm not sure if you agree with me because I donated money to some gyms out there. We have this mindset of like, I'm doing something, but I'm actually doing the thing. It's like it's just to get a better night of sleep at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm pretending to solve X, Y, and Z. Do you see that happening? Like when you have that client and they're not putting in the work and you're questioning yourself, but in reality, you should question their commitment.
Yeah, that's the risk, right? Because when you're so close to a client, those lines blur. And when you're in the middle of it, like, is it me? Am I just not saying it right? And am I not good at what I do? What's going on? And I've had all those fears and worries and doubts. And I appreciate that because it helps me get better, right? Because I think those are really good questions to ask before you make a really critical or big change in whatever professional relationship you have. I mean, you should question, am I doing this to the best of my ability? But then if I can go to sleep at night and say, yes, I'm providing the best service that I can, the best information that I can, and that it is good and valuable, and you're still not getting any results, then I would encourage, I don't think we do this enough either, is have that tough conversation first. And it's not a threat. I wouldn't suggest that. It's the metaphor in my head is it's like a wave coming to shore, right? The wave is coming to shore. So if I'm saying, hey, if we don't make changes, then I'm going to have to move on, or we're going to have to part professionally, that's just a wave coming to shore. It's not mad. It's not frustrated. It's not sad. It's just going that direction. And that's how I would have that tough conversation to say, if we can't agree and see consequential change moving forward, then we're going to have to part ways for your benefit and for mine, because we're not seeing what you're paying me for, which is growth and development in your industry. If we're not seeing that, then why are we doing this?
Okay. And I'm going to jump on that boat that you mentioned, the tough conversations, right? Because I find it very curious, especially in the business side of coaching. It's like sometimes, I'm not sure if that happened to you. That's the reason I'm asking. It's like, have you ever been hired by, for example, a business owner or mid-level manager, whatever, that he hired you blaming the team, and when you arrive there, you're like, you're actually the problem here. And how to navigate that chat? That's your client.
Yeah. This is great question. Boy, man, you got an hour or two or three. That's a deep one, but I'll be quick about it. This is in the same alignment about difficult conversations. So often I think we get stuck with trying to prove either something wrong or myself right. And so I've gone in a lot of businesses where, again, they've got some operational excellence but they're blaming their staff. And if those are out, like if our results and the staff that we've got aren't in alignment, the question's not about what did everything go wrong before, but what do we need to change to get where we're going? And so I always try to frame even the tough talks with this idea of what does a successful outcome look like, or what's the result that we're going for? I don't care what happened yesterday, but if we agree that something's got to change to move forward, then let's test our assumptions. If it's bad people, well, what's telling us it's bad people? What characteristics can we qualify and quantify? And then if that's not true, if it's just I think and I feel, then let's take what we know and start to work through and develop the people in that organization. And I will say most organizations need a bit of healthy turnover when I first come in. I think we don't know how to really, as a broad brush, identify the importance of culture in an organization and really set up a healthy environment for people to develop, grow, and operate. And so first we need to get an owner to buy into what does that look like with clarity. And then we can start to disseminate the idea behind that and teach people what it looks like and then hold them accountable. So setting expectations, delegating, and accountability. I mean, it's all simple stuff. It's just not easy.
Yeah, I think it's the emotional triggers. It's like, I had like an example. I'll give you an example with a guy that I worked with back in the day when I was out working with that business coach. He was like, I had like 10 to 12 employees, okay, and I'm solo now. And I'm asking him why that happened. He's like, I had an employee that was stealing gas from my trucks, and I vouched for him when he asked for more health benefits, a package and all of that, and he actually fought for that, and the guy did that. But that's an emotional response to a systems problem, which I asked him, okay, but how do you track your trucks? How you didn't caught that? How did that guy landed in your business in the first place? How does it look like your hiring process? So you're trying to understand the mindset behind the emotional trigger, but at the same time, it's a business which consists on systems. Do you see that happening? Like, if you could challenge someone, let's say the guy hires you, okay, and you're looking at the team and he say, yeah, my team sucks. And why does it suck?
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, it's like peeling off the reason behind it. Oh, they don't have a very good conversion rate. Okay, what does the marketing offer? How many no-shows do you have? And start peeling off to really understand the real answer, and from a neutral perspective, not trying to confirm a bias, right? Is that something you see happening?
Yeah. So I think what we've done across all industries and in business, I have to say, the largest organizations I haven't had a ton of opportunity to work with. So I'm mid-sized, maybe 500 employees and less. But what we don't do is really give leadership direction on what type of conversations they should be having with their team members. We tend to promote up because of technical skill, but we don't teach them when they're in leadership to what talks do we have with a poor performer? What talks do we have with a adequate performer? And what talks do we have with a superstar? We tend to let the superstars alone, tell once or twice what to do for the people that need development. And then we focus a lot of attention on mitigating the damage that problems have. And so I really think, and this is where I've come in and spent a lot of time kind of processing through this in my head, is if I could come up with a tool that would tell ownership and leadership not who they should be having conversations with, but that they need to have the conversations constantly and consistently with everybody they're responsible for, and what type of conversations to have. That's really helpful, because I think what you were highlighting is if I was vouching for somebody and there was compensation associated with it, or some reward to that, man, how do you vouch for somebody doing something that you're not aware of? Meaning, like, you weren't aware of his theft, you weren't aware of his poor behavior, you weren't aware of his. That means you're not in relationship with that person. You're not there walking alongside him in an intimate enough fashion to know, is that person doing their behavior the right way? And so when I go into organizations, in a really brief way to do it, I say everybody within your organization is in one of three categories. They're either a partner, a project, or a problem. The partners are the people that are really good. But you need to walk with them, because they shoulder more than they should oftentimes. They're left alone because they're good at what they do. Those are the people that get burned out, leave for another organization. You're like, what happened? You were so good. Well, it's because you said, hey, you doing okay? They're like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm good. And they never talk with you about it. The projects are the people that you need to work with and say, okay, I see excellence in you. Let me be there for you. But it's like, you said you had young kids.
Mhm.
It's like teaching them to tie their shoes. You don't teach them once. You don't teach them twice. You teach them 5, 10, 100 times. But you put in the effort. And then the problems are just like that guy that was stealing from one of your clients. You got to move on from them, but you got to know it because you're talking with them. And so that's kind of the framework I give people. And once they get clarity, then I can start to have conversations with ownership and leadership on, how do we develop your staff, and which ones are the important ones to have a long-term vision for, and which ones are important for us to move on from. Because without that, a problem will have a good week and then a bad week, or a good month and then a bad month. And, they'll have good sales numbers and then they'll have bad sales numbers. And we're like, well, he's so good at one point. Or somebody's a star salesman and crushing it, leading your company with revenue, but can't work in a team. And so you lose, your turnover rate's at 120%, except for him, because he's the rainmaker. You're like, you're killing me. So
I love that, especially if I'm thinking out loud, right, about my kids. Like, I have two, right, and one is more of a rebel, and the other one, the older one, is like he's more like, not so much of a rebel. Let's say it like this. But I think the key word is attention. It's when they're misbehaving and you're giving a lot of attention to the younger one. The other one is like, oh, so misbehaving equals attention.
That's
So I'm
right.
gonna misbehave myself. I'm not getting
For sure.
attention like in the company. If you have someone like the guy is always like a discussion point, they're always talking with him. They're like, hey, maybe he's getting a spotlight, and
Yeah.
I'm not. It's like, I'm
That's
just
right.
doing the bare minimum and nobody cares. And actually, that's a star player. And you're like, you're doing things, in the wrong direction. It's like
Yeah.
upward. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
And tell me, Pedro, if you see this too, is as people grow up in leadership and even into ownership, at the end of the day, we like showing what do we do today? And so they get stuck in the processes, which are necessary. But as a senior leader, if you're not pouring in your people, if that's not the biggest part of your day, in my opinion, you're misallocating your time. Because like you said, there's an attention vacuum, and you're like, then these people are like, well, the only time I get a call or get to talk to the boss is because I'm in trouble. But yeah, it's just, we got to have more engagement in relationship.
Yeah, I think business owners, they're great at getting themselves busy in projects doing like low value tasks to, at the end of the day, say, hey, I am the guy that works the most. I'm the guy that loves the most the business, but at the end of the day, that's not really productivity. It's just looking busy.
Yeah, that's right.
Like on billable hours and something like that. Well, the landscapers I work with, they were, top performance and looking busy. Like they should be selling, closing, and they were like, well, I'm gonna, do a mechanic part-time job here, spend 3 hours in stuff that I shouldn't. But yeah, I did my stuff, so
How'd you break them of that?
well, that's a hard one. I mean, especially with blue collar people. right?
Hmm.
Sometimes the
Yeah.
coaching mindset, it's hard. It's part of an awakening. Sometimes, well, we have a saying here in Brazil, okay? Not sure if you guys have there, but sometimes it's like, where's that dog sitting on a nail? Well, it's not hurting enough, you know? And
Yeah. That's
sometimes
right.
they need to go through a process to suffer to a point that they realize this is not good enough and they need to try something different. I mean, I know it sometimes it feels like that's pretty raw and not very, cool on my end, but sometimes people have to go through their own path to understand what bad looks like to search for good. Did that make sense?
Yeah. I think that's part of the coaching process as opposed to consulting is you're helping them. The struggle is part of growth. And I think as a coach, you can walk with them through it. You just can't do it for them.
Yes. Now talking about walk, let's talk about EPA, right? Because I'm curious where are you guys going? Where are you taking all this? Looking ahead, where do you see the business going? Are you thinking about scaling, hiring, or is there a next step you're excited about?
Yeah, great. 26 is a great year. So, like I alluded to before, first year we're going to go out and do some marketing. We've had coaches, and we do have coaches working with us underneath us, but we want to scale that a little bit more. And I love one-on-one time. Hours in the day are limited though. But I'm not getting any younger. So this is the year where we've decided to start to really formalize our processes and our systems and train others to do that. We've partnered in a great guy. I know one of the pre-questions was who have we been coached by? We're working with a guy named Luke Mulcher, growth strategist. He's operating as our fractional CFO or CMO, sorry, and helping us just get our vision put together with some clarity and hold us accountable to it. It's funny how all the words that we say to our clients, he's telling us, and it seems new for the very first time. It's like, finally, you're right. You're right, Luke. I am an idiot. I'm sorry. So he's been fantastic in helping us get some clarity. And both my business partner and I we've written books. They'll be releasing this year, which is great. So it's a big scaling year for us. We've also partnered up with, or in the process of developing a partnership with a gentleman by the name of Bill Foch. He's comes from the great game of business and working with a Harvard Business School. Has done some research in the last few years on a diagnostic tool for business economic evaluation and diagnosing where opportunity for development and growth is within an organization. And it's got some quantifiable results. So anxious and excited to move forward with that. He's got a couple articles going out through Inc. and Forbes coming up. So yeah, really, really going to be a good, fun year. So lots of new, uncomfortable areas for us. Cause like I said, we have not done marketing before. So it's not something I'm,
Mm. Mhm.
familiar with. So it's good. It's good to be stretched. And
Okay.
it's a stretching year.
Sounds exciting. Sounds like scaling season. And
Yeah.
also, I need to highlight the fact that you mentioned, like, oh, yeah, I'm an idiot because, I'm doing the things on my own that I'm advising people not to. But come on, this is coaching, right? It's like that's the main reason coaching works, and at least in my experience, and at least on my perspective. It's like you're not inside the noise. So it's so easy for that guy to pinpoint exactly what's holding you guys back because he's not inside I'm not going to call it hamster wheel, but it's not inside the eye
Pretty
of the hurricane, right? So it's so
Yeah.
much easier. It's like, seriously, it's like when I'm talking with my wife, I'm like giving her this analysis, like super well thought, but 50% is bullshit that I'm telling myself that I'm not going to do it because blah, blah,
For sure.
blah. And then she's like, "Oh, why don't you do that? Or why are you doing that?" And I'm like giving okay, I never thought it like that. Or
Yeah.
maybe, oh, yeah, that's bullshit. You're right. So I wouldn't say like that. This is like a bad thing. I see it
No.
as a vulnerability key aspect that turns you into a good coach. It's like realizing you also need one. So that makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. Now,
Yeah.
Dana, I want to tap into your experience for a second because I think people listening can really benefit from this. You've been into multiple industries and you hear all kinds of business advice. Some are good, some are bad. So, what's one piece of a business advice you hear all the time that you think that's overrated or misunderstood?
That is a great question. You kind of talked about this earlier, is just doing more, putting in the grind and up at 4 a.m., late nights, being the first to the office. I mean, it can make you feel good because you can hang that kind of on the wall and say, hey, look how cool I am. And I think it's just overrated. The older I get, just turned 50, the value in rest and space. Somebody told me this the other day. That was brilliant. How'd he put it? He said, I just need some feet on the desk time. And so he sets an hour a day just to put his feet up on the desk, no distractions, and just to think and process. And I think as we go, if you're in any type of leadership or ownership, you can't run all the time because you're doing a disservice to the future, whether it be tomorrow, next month, or years down the line. You have to be able to have a rhythm of peace and quiet and space to process through. So this, and I know I'm not the first person to say it, but the grind for the sake of grinding, man, I think quality far outweighs quantity.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. Now, if someone listening wants to connect with you or follow your work, Dana, where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah. Right now, the best is going to be on LinkedIn. That's where most of my presence is. With the rollout of my book later this year, I'm going to have an Instagram presence as well. So that's it. I'm not a big social media guy. Like I said, it's been mostly referrals and personal relationship because I'm a big relationship guy. But if you want to reach me on LinkedIn, it's Dana DeVito and reach out. I'm happy to have a call, talk, chat. Man, I love just talking with people. So it'd be great. Any and everything. So, or just message me.
Okay, Dana, I have to highlight some stuff based on this conversation today. Okay. First of all, the fact that you're so open about the mistakes you made, right? You're not trying to play an act here. It's just Dana by Dana. It's just you. I love the authenticity. And I will always hammer that's quality for a true coach. And in case you're wondering, Dana, you're not a consultant, okay? You're a true coach at heart. I can
Thanks. I
tell
appreciate it.
just by connecting with people. I mean, as much as you have a background in systems and you can understand that that's a key part of the business, it's not just about mindset, which I get it. I think that's a true testament to being a great coach, and asking the right questions and peeling off that onion, to understand the true intentions. I would highlight also the fact that you stayed and did some pro bono work with those clients that were in a hardship. Because at the end of the day, yes, we want to make money, obviously, but money means to an end, right? It's not just about the money, it's about impact. If they're going through a bad moment or bad time, it's only fair. Like you're like, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation. I think everything starts with a conversation. Even if we're talking about saying goodbyes or saying hello, we need to have a conversation. People sometimes they have that noise in their head and they're like imagining what the outcome is going to be based on the expectations. But that's so much bullshit. It's just have the chat, man. Whenever you have it, sometimes it's just like not that big of a deal and you just sit down, have a decent human contact and move forward. I mean,
Huge.
I think that's
Yeah.
huge. And, the bias you mentioned about something wrong, or is something really wrong, or am I trying to prove myself right? I think that bias, that intention, that will tell you what this client really is looking for: validation or actually
Yeah.
trying to solve the problem, And
Well
having
said.
that neutral perspective, really, I think it what makes the difference. And I like how you handle that.
Thanks.
I think overall, talking about the grinding mindset, that always brings back to my dad. He was like in his 70s, still a dean in the university. And we were like, hey, dad, you know what? They're not going to build a statue. Whenever you leave there, it's not going to happen. I know the students, they love you, but maybe time to look for something else, which he did. And he's grateful for it. But sometimes you have to have those conversations.
I was just going to say, you need to have that conversation. How cool for you to have the courage to say it and for him to have the humility to hear it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, appreciate that. And also, like, last straw, I promise, guys. It's like when we're talking about the grind mindset, right? It always brings me back to the root cause and intention. Is it like whatever we say yes to something, what are we saying no to? What are you saying no to if you're working 60 hours a week? To your family, for some good quality time with your wife? You never know, but you have to think about that, right? Instead of just pushing it. So this is my long way of saying, Dana, I appreciate what you do. Appreciate being here, sharing
Thanks,
so
man.
openly today. It was
Appreciate
great having you on, man.
Thank you. Pedro, man, anytime. This was cool. Thank you so much for the conversation. I appreciate it.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.